He was unstoppable. A Korean billionaire CEO who transformed the global tech industry before he turned 35. Markets moved when he spoke. Investors watched his expressions. Competitors feared his silence more than his threats. Jin-Woo Park didn't just build a company, he built a digital empire. His AI corporation, Neurosphere, rewrote how the world interacted with technology. His predictive systems could forecast human behavior with frightening precision. Governments consulted him. Fortune 500 CEOs quoted him. His wealth stretched beyond billions. And yet, there was one variable he could never calculate: her. 5 years ago, he made the most important decision of his life. He chose power over love, and he never looked back until today. The beach on Jeju Island glittered beneath the afternoon sun like crushed diamonds scattered across white sand. The private luxury resort framed the shoreline with elegance and exclusivity. Security staff kept paparazzi far enough away to protect the illusion of perfection. Jin-Woo walked across the sand like a man who owned the horizon. In many ways, he did. At 34, he had mastered control. Control over markets, control over narratives, control over people. Beside him walked Elise Laurent, influencer, investor's daughter, and his fiancée. Her white designer swimsuit caught the sunlight perfectly. Her engagement ring sparkled strategically. Her social media following sat comfortably above 3 million. They were a brand, a power couple, a merger disguised as romance. Elise paused to take a photo. "Hold my hand like this," she said lightly. "The lighting is perfect." Jin-Woo adjusted automatically. Click. Another flawless image for the world. His smartwatch buzzed. 5 notifications, 3 urgent emails, a Singapore market fluctuation. Even in paradise, the empire demanded him. He barely noticed, because everything was exactly as planned, exactly as optimized, exactly as it should be, until he saw her. Near the water's edge, partially shaded beneath a colorful beach umbrella, sat a woman watching 2 little boys build an elaborate sandcastle. Jin-Woo slowed. His body reacted before his mind did. The curve of her shoulders, the way she tilted her head slightly when concentrating, the calm strength in her posture. His pulse faltered. No, it couldn't be. But it was. Maya. 5 years disappeared in a single breath. Suddenly, he wasn't the untouchable CEO. He was 29 again, standing in her apartment at 4:07 a.m., watching her sleep, knowing he was about to leave. He had kissed her forehead softly, whispered an apology she never heard, and walked out before sunrise to accept venture capital funding that would launch Neurosphere globally. He told himself it was necessary. He told himself love was a distraction. He told himself she deserved someone stable. He told himself ambition required sacrifice. So he sacrificed her and never looked back. Until now. Because she wasn't alone. The 2 boys, 4 years old, maybe 5, identical, dark hair falling across their foreheads, serious expressions, focused. One boy was rebuilding a sand wall that kept collapsing, his eyebrows furrowed, his lips pressed tightly together. Jin-Woo's breath stopped. That expression, that exact expression, it was his. The same look from childhood photos when puzzle pieces wouldn't fit. The same frustration he showed when code failed to compile. The same analytical intensity that made investors nervous. The champagne glass slipped from his hand, shattered against the sand. Elise turned sharply.
"Gene, what happened?" He didn't hear her, because in that moment, the world rearranged itself. Those boys were his. If you felt that shift just now, tap the like button, because this is where everything changes. And I want to know, if you were him, would you walk forward or walk away again? Drop your answer in the comments. Jin Woo's feet moved on their own. Elise's hand slipped from his arm. 10 steps, 8, 5. 10 feet away, he stopped. Maya looked up. Recognition flashed, then hardened. 5 years of silence, 5 years of abandonment, 5 years of building a life alone, all visible in her eyes. One of the boys pointed. "Mommy, that man dropped his glass." Maya didn't look away from Jin Woo. Her hand moved instinctively behind her, resting protectively on her son's shoulder. "Yes," she said quietly. "Let's go back to the cottage." Her movements were calm, controlled, but her eyes never left him. Jin Woo opened his mouth. Nothing came out. What could he say? "I didn't know? I would have stayed? I'm sorry?" All meaningless, because he had chosen to leave, and choices have consequences. The boys turned toward him as they gathered their toys. That's when it hit him fully. His eyes, his bone structure, his intensity multiplied. Elise appeared beside him. "Who is she, and why do those children look like you?" Maya's gaze flicked to Elise's diamond ring, then back to him. Something passed across her expression. Pain, acceptance, strength. Then she smiled gently at her sons. "Race you back," she said. The twins ran, laughter trailing behind them, free, unaware. Maya lingered a moment longer. 5 years of struggle lived in that silence. Then she turned and walked away. Jin Woo stood frozen, the man who had survived hostile takeovers, the man who built a billion-dollar empire from nothing, the man who never faltered, was shaking. Elise's voice cut through the silence. "Gene, tell me those aren't yours." He didn't answer, because he didn't need a DNA test. He saw himself in them. And for the first time in his perfectly controlled life, Jin Woo Park realized something. His algorithm was flawed. He had sons, and he had missed their entire existence. If you're still watching, comment your country below. I love seeing how global this community is. And if you're new here, subscribe now, because what happens next changes everything. Jin Woo didn't remember walking back to the resort. One moment he was on the sand, the next he was alone in his private suite staring at the ocean through floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Elise paced behind him. "Explain," she demanded. "An ex," he said quietly. "And the children?" Silence. Elise laughed coldly. "How inconvenient." His phone buzzed. Board messages, market updates, summit reminders. The Chun Investment Group would attend tomorrow's tech conference. Everything depended on his presence. But for the first time, none of it felt urgent. Instead, he opened a contact he hadn't touched in 5 years. Park Min-ho, head of security. "I need information," he typed. Reply, "Name?" His fingers hovered. Then, "Maya Williams, 2 sons, approximately 4 years old. I need everything." The message sent. His chest tightened. In 1 hour he would know where she lived, what she did, how she survived without him, whether she had moved on, whether she ever hated him. Exactly 1 hour later his phone buzzed. The report loaded. Founder and CEO, Quantum Shift Software. Company valuation, $220 million. Residence, Seoul. Twin sons, Tamin and Taejun Williams. Father not listed on the birth certificate. Jin Woo read it 3 times. She built her own empire. She raised his sons alone. She never asked him for money, never contacted him, never exposed him. She owed him nothing. And yet, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Message. Beach sunrise. Come alone. His heart pounded. It was her. He typed, "I'll be there." No reply. The sun dipped beneath the horizon, and for the first time in 5 years, Jin Woo Park felt powerless.
The rain didn't stop that night. It poured like the sky itself was trying to wash away something dirty, something buried. Inside his penthouse, he stood still, completely still, staring at the message glowing on his phone. She's back. 3 words. That was all it took to shake a man who had faced billion-dollar losses without blinking, who had crushed competitors twice his size, who had built an empire from nothing but raw ambition and calculated ruthlessness. But this was different, because she wasn't just a person, she was a secret, a past he had buried so deep even he sometimes pretended it never happened. He walked slowly to the window, overlooking the city lights, the same city that worshipped him, the same city that feared him. Everything he had built, every deal, every lie, every sacrifice, it all led back to one moment, one night, one decision. And now that past was knocking again. Across town, in a quiet, dimly lit apartment, she sat on the edge of the bed, clutching a worn-out envelope. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from exhaustion. Years of running, years of hiding, years of pretending she didn't exist. And now, she was done. She opened the envelope slowly, pulling out a photograph. Him, standing beside her, smiling. A version of him the world had never seen. A version he had killed the moment he chose power over truth. Back in the penthouse, he finally moved. He grabbed his coat, his keys, and his gun. Not because he wanted violence, but because he understood something most people didn't. When the past comes back, it doesn't come quietly. The elevator ride felt longer than usual. Each second stretched like a warning. Each floor passed like a countdown. By the time the doors opened, his expression had changed. Cold, focused, dangerous. The man the world knew was back. He drove fast, too fast, ignoring traffic lights, ignoring the rain, ignoring everything except the one thought repeating in his head. Why now? Why after all these years? Why after he erased every trace? Why after he made sure no one could ever connect them again? Unless his grip tightened on the steering wheel. Unless she wasn't alone. Meanwhile, she stood in front of the mirror. For a long moment, she just stared at herself. The scars, the tired eyes, the strength she never asked for. Then she whispered softly, "It's time." Not for revenge, not for chaos, but for truth. The knock came suddenly, sharp, heavy, demanding. She froze, her heart skipped, but she didn't panic, not anymore. She walked slowly to the door, each step steady, each breath controlled. When she opened it, he was there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain echoed behind him, the silence screamed between them, and in that silence, everything returned. The memories, the betrayal, the love that once felt unbreakable. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low. "You knew I'd come back," she replied. His jaw tightened. "No, I made sure you couldn't." A faint smile touched her lips, but it wasn't warm.
"It's funny," she said, "how powerful men think they can control everything, even people." He stepped inside without asking. She didn't stop him, because this wasn't about permission. This was about confrontation. "Why now?" he asked again. This time, his voice carried something else, not anger, not control, something closer to fear. She walked past him, placing the photograph on the table. "I got tired of being your ghost," she said. He didn't look at it. He already knew what it was. "I gave you a chance," he said quietly, "to live, to disappear, to be safe." She turned to him sharply. "Safe?" she repeated. Her voice cracked, but her eyes didn't. "You call that safe? Living like I don't exist, like I don't matter, like everything we had was just erased?" He didn't answer, because the truth was, that's exactly what he did. "You made your choice," he said finally. "And you made yours," she fired back. Silence again, heavy, unforgiving. Then she said something that changed everything. "They know." His entire body stiffened. Not a reaction, a calculation. "What do you mean?" he asked slowly. She stepped closer. "They know who I am." A pause. "And what you did." The room suddenly felt smaller, the air heavier, the stakes higher than ever. "Who?" he demanded. She shook her head. "That's the problem," she said. "I don't know." For the first time, something cracked in his composure. Not visibly, but internally, because uncertainty was something he couldn't control, and control was everything. "How long?" he asked. "A few weeks, and you're just telling me now?" She laughed, bitter, sharp. "Oh, now you care about timing?" He stepped closer, close enough to remind her of who he used to be, close enough to remind himself, too. "You should have stayed hidden," he said. Her expression hardened. "No," she replied. "You should have told the truth." And there it was, the real conflict. Not just secrets, not just danger, but truth versus power. The rain outside intensified. Thunder rolled across the sky like a warning, because something had shifted, something irreversible. He looked at her one last time, not as a threat, not as a problem, but as the one person who could destroy everything he built. "If this gets out," he began. "It will," she interrupted. Their eyes locked, and in that moment they both understood. There was no going back. But just as the tension reached its peak, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then froze. He noticed immediately. "What is it?" She didn't answer, didn't move, didn't breathe. Slowly, she turned the screen toward him. A message, unknown number, 3 words. "We found you." The room fell into silence, not the kind they had shared before. This was different. This was danger, real danger, because now it wasn't just their past catching up. It was something bigger, something watching, something already closing in. And for the first time, he realized something terrifying. This wasn't a problem he could fix with money or power or influence. This was war, and they were already losing.
The message didn't just sit on the screen. It burned. "We found you." 3 simple words, but they carried something far more dangerous than a threat. They carried certainty. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Not because they didn't have something to say, but because both of them understood exactly what this meant. "They've been watching," he said quietly. Not a question, a conclusion. Her fingers tightened around the phone. "I told you I didn't know who they were," she whispered. He stepped closer, his mind already racing ahead. Patterns, enemies, leaks, mistakes. He was already building the war in his head. "Give me the phone." She hesitated, not out of fear, but trust. Trust that had once been broken beyond repair. "Now," he added, sharper this time. She handed it over, slowly, reluctantly. His eyes scanned the message. Unknown number, no traceable ID, clean, too clean. "They're not amateurs," he muttered. Of course they weren't. Amateurs don't find ghosts. Amateurs don't track people who were erased years ago. "Then who are they?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately, because the truth was, there was only one kind of enemy capable of this. And if he was right, this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everything. He walked away from her, dialing a number from memory. It rang once, twice, then, "Talk." A voice on the other end, cold, professional, loyal only to power. "I need everything," he said. "No filters, no delays. Find out who's been digging into my past." A pause, then, "Define past." His eyes flicked toward her, then back. "All of it." Silence. Even the man on the other end understood what that meant. "That opens doors you closed for a reason," the voice warned. "I didn't call you for advice." Another pause. Then, "You'll have something in an hour." Click. He ended the call. "You have people watching your past?" she asked. He turned to her. "You think I built an empire without protecting it?" She let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "No, I think you built it by burying everything that could destroy it." He didn't deny it, because it was true. "You said they know what I did," he said. "Tell me exactly what you think they know." She crossed her arms. "Enough. That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters." Frustration flashed across his face, not because she was wrong, but because she wasn't precise, and precision was the difference between control and chaos. "Start from the beginning," he said. Her expression shifted, not softer, but heavier. "You remember that night?" she asked. He didn't respond, but his silence was confirmation. The fire, the reports, the lies, they ruled it an accident. His jaw tightened. It was an accident. She stepped closer. "No," she said quietly. "It was a decision." The air changed again, sharper, more dangerous. "You don't get to rewrite history," he said, "and you don't get to hide from it forever." For a moment, it felt like they were back there. That night, that moment, that choice. Then, his phone buzzed. He checked it instantly. A message, from the same contact. "You're exposed." A file followed, encrypted, heavy. He opened it, and for the first time in years, his composure cracked. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't answer. Not immediately, because what he was looking at was impossible. Documents, photos, records, everything he had buried, everything he had destroyed, everything he had erased from existence. Back. "How?" he whispered. She stepped closer, trying to see, but he turned the phone away. "No," he said. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you hiding?" His voice dropped, lower than before, more dangerous. "You were right," he said. A pause. "They don't just know about you." Silence. "They know everything." The weight of those words hit harder than anything before. "Everything?" she repeated. He nodded slowly. "The fire, the cover-up, the people involved." His eyes locked onto hers. "They even know who gave the order." Her breath caught. Because now, this wasn't just about exposure. This was about blame.
And blame could destroy more than reputations. It could destroy lives. "Who else has this?" she asked. He shook his head. "Doesn't matter." "It does if we're trying to survive." He stepped closer. "This isn't about survival anymore." "Then what is it about?" His voice hardened. "Control." She stared at him, then slowly shook her head. "No," she said. "You still don't get it." He frowned. "You think this is a game you can manage. You think if you move fast enough, pay enough, threaten enough, it will go away." A pause. "But this?" She pointed at the phone. "This is bigger than you." The words hit, because deep down, he already knew. Another buzz. This time, her phone. She picked it up slowly, like it might explode in her hands. Another message. She read it, and her face changed instantly. Fear. Real fear. "What?" he demanded. She didn't answer. Instead, she showed him a photo. Not of the past, not of documents, of now. Taken from outside the building, their building, her apartment. A clear shot of the window, of them, standing exactly where they were. Watching. Right now. "Leave," he said immediately. "What?" "We don't have time." The calm was gone. Now it was urgency, pure instinct. He grabbed his coat again. This time, no hesitation. They're not just watching anymore. They're moving. A loud sound echoed from the hallway. A door, slamming. Footsteps. Not one, multiple, coming closer. Her heart started racing. "You said this wasn't about survival," she whispered. He looked at her, and for the first time, there was no control in his eyes, only truth. "I was wrong." Another sound, closer now, right outside. He reached for his gun, safety off. Silence. Then, a knock. Slow, deliberate, final. They both froze. And then, a voice from the other side of the door. "We know you're inside." Everything stopped. Because this was no longer a warning. This was the beginning of the end.
The knock echoed again, slow, controlled, like whoever stood behind that door already knew how this would end. "We know you're inside." Silence swallowed the room. Her breathing became shallow, fast, unsteady. He raised his hand slightly, signaling her to stay quiet. Another knock, this time louder, more impatient. "Open the door." He didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even blink. Instead, his mind worked at a speed most people would never understand. Entry points, exit routes, timing, risk. The front door was compromised. That meant only one option. He leaned closer to her, voice barely above a whisper. "Back exit, now." She nodded, but her legs didn't move immediately. Fear had rooted her in place. "Move," he said, sharper this time. That snapped her out of it. They turned, quiet, careful, each step measured. Another knock, harder now. The handle rattled. "They're not waiting," she whispered. "I know." They reached the hallway, dim lights, long shadows. Too quiet. Something felt wrong. He slowed, just slightly. "Why are we slowing down?" she asked. "Because this is too easy." That's when he saw it. The back door, slightly open, just enough to look like an escape. But to him, it looked like a trap. He stopped completely. "No," he said. "What do you mean, no?" she whispered, panic rising. "That's our way out." "No," he repeated. "They want us to go there." Her chest tightened. "Then what do we do?"
Before he could answer, a sound behind them, the front door breaking open, wood cracking, metal snapping. "They're in," she said, her voice shaking. His jaw clenched. Options were closing fast, too fast. Then another sound. From the back, a soft click. They both turned. The door they were about to run through opened wider, and someone stepped in, not masked, not armed, not threatening. Familiar. Her breath caught. "No," she whispered. He looked at her, then at the figure. Confusion flickered for the first time. "You know him?" he asked. She didn't answer, because she couldn't, because standing in that doorway was someone she never thought she would see again. "Hello," the man said calmly. His voice carried no urgency, no fear, no tension, just control. "You shouldn't be here," she said, barely holding herself together. A faint smile crossed his face. "I could say the same to you." Footsteps echoed from behind them, closer now. They were running out of time. "Who is he?" he demanded. Still, she didn't respond. That's when it clicked, not from what she said, but from what she didn't. "You trust him," he said slowly. Her silence confirmed it, and that was enough. "Then we're leaving," he said. He moved forward, toward the back door, toward the man, but just as he got close, the man stepped aside, inviting them through, too easily, too smoothly, and that's when instinct screamed. Too late. The moment they crossed the threshold, everything changed. Armed men emerged from the shadows, hidden, waiting, prepared, guns raised, locked. "Stop!" They froze. Her eyes widened in horror. "No!" she whispered. He turned slowly, back toward her, understanding hitting him at once. "You knew," he said. She shook her head instantly. "No, I didn't. I swear I didn't." But the damage was already done, because it didn't matter what she said now. What mattered was what just happened. They walked straight into a trap, and she was the only connection to it. The man stepped forward again, calm, collected, in control of everything. "Drop it," he said, nodding toward the gun in his hand. A pause, tension thick enough to break. Then, slowly, he lowered it, not because he was afraid, but because he was thinking, always thinking. The gun hit the floor, a sharp sound, final. "Good," the man said. Her voice broke. "You said you wouldn't come back." The man looked at her, and for the first time there was something human in his expression. "I didn't come back for you." That hit harder than anything else. Silence. Then he looked at him, cold again. "I came for him." Every muscle in his body tightened. "Then you found the wrong person," he replied. A small smile. "No," the man said. "We found exactly who we were looking for." The truth sat there, heavy, unavoidable. This was never just about her. It was always about him. "Take them," the man ordered. The guards moved instantly. Rough hands, tight grips, no resistance allowed. She struggled. "Wait, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," the man said. Her eyes filled with panic. "You said you would protect me." That made him pause, just for a second. But that was enough, because in that second, everything shifted again. He looked at her, not with anger, not with rage, but something worse, disappointment. "You trusted him," he said quietly. Her silence confirmed it, and that was enough. "You don't get to not know anymore." Those words cut deep, because now ignorance was no longer an excuse. It was a weapon, and it had been used against him, against everything. The man stepped closer. "This is where it ends," he said, but he shook his head slowly. "No," he replied. A pause. "This is where you think it ends." Their eyes locked. Power versus power, control versus control. And for the first time, the man's expression shifted, just slightly, because something about that answer didn't feel like surrender. It felt like a warning, a dangerous one. "Move," one of the guards snapped. They were pushed forward, out of the building, into the night, cold air, dark streets, unknown destination. And as they were forced into separate vehicles, she screamed his name, loud, desperate, breaking. But he didn't respond, didn't look back, because his mind was already somewhere else, not in the present, not in the fear, but in the past, connecting something critical, something they just overlooked. And as the car door slammed, a single thought formed, clear, sharp, deadly. This was never just about accident. It was planned.
The car doors slammed shut. Darkness wrapped around him instantly. Not just the absence of light, but control. His hands were restrained, tight, calculated, professional. Whoever planned this didn't make mistakes. The engine roared to life. He didn't struggle, didn't speak, didn't react, because right now, the most dangerous thing he could do was panic. Instead, he leaned back slightly, closed his eyes, and started thinking. Not about escape, not yet, about patterns. Everything that had happened so far was too precise. The message, the files, the exposure, the timing, the ambush. No loose ends, no coincidence, which meant only one thing. This wasn't revenge, it was strategy. His eyes opened slowly, and for the first time since this began, he smiled, because now he understood. "This isn't about destroying me," he said quietly. The man sitting across from him shifted slightly. A guard, watching, listening. "It's about using me." Silence, but that silence confirmed everything. He leaned forward slightly. "So the question is," his eyes sharpened, "who benefits from keeping me alive?" The guard didn't answer, but he didn't need to, because the answer was already forming. Meanwhile, she wasn't thinking. She couldn't. Panic had taken over everything. "Where are you taking me?" she shouted. No answer. "Talk to me." Still nothing. The car kept moving, faster now, deeper into the unknown. Her hands trembled, her chest tightened, her thoughts spiraled, because something felt wrong. Not just dangerous, familiar, and that's what scared her the most. The car slowed, then stopped. The door opened. Out. She hesitated, then stepped out slowly, and froze, because she recognized the place instantly. "No," she whispered. An old building, abandoned, broken, but not forgotten, because this was where everything started. "This isn't possible," she said. "Oh, it's very possible." Her heart dropped. That voice. She turned slowly, and there he was, standing in the shadows, the same man, but now different. No calm mask, no soft tone, just power, raw, undeniable. "You brought me back here?" she said. He stepped closer. "I didn't bring you back." A pause. "I brought you home." Her breath caught, because suddenly the memories came flooding back. The fire, the screams, the chaos, and the truth she had buried deeper than anything else. "You shouldn't have come," she whispered. He tilted his head slightly. "Neither should you." Meanwhile, the car carrying him finally stopped. The door opened, but this time, no commands, no force, just silence. He stepped out on his own, and immediately he saw it. The same building. His expression didn't change, but inside, everything clicked. "Of course," he muttered, because now everything made sense. This wasn't random. This wasn't coincidence. This was the origin, and whoever planned this wanted them both here at the same time for a reason. He walked forward, no resistance, no hesitation, because now he wanted answers, real ones. Inside, she stood frozen, memories tearing through her. "You remember now, don't you?" the man said. She shook her head. No, that's not how it happened." "But it is," he replied calmly. "It always was." Footsteps echoed behind them. She turned, and her heart stopped, because he was there, standing, unshaken, unbroken, alive. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything they had said, everything they had believed, everything they had accused each other of, collapsed. "You brought him here?" she said slowly. The man smiled. No. A pause. I made sure he would come. Silence. Then he stepped forward. Enough games, he said. You wanted me here. I'm here. His voice was calm, but beneath it was something far more dangerous. Start talking. The man studied him for a long moment. Then he laughed. Not loudly, not wildly, but knowingly. You still think you're in control, he said. A pause. That's exactly why this worked. Something shifted, subtle but real, because for the first time, control wasn't his anymore. You said they know everything, she said suddenly. The man nodded. They do. Her voice trembled. Then say it. Silence filled the room, heavy, unavoidable. Then he spoke. The fire, a pause, was never an accident. Her eyes filled instantly. No. And it wasn't just a decision either. Now, even he was listening closely, because this was the truth they had both been chasing. It was an order, the man said. Silence, dead silence. Then he turned and looked directly at him. You gave it. Everything stopped. Time, air, thought. Her head snapped toward him. No, that's not true. But his silence said everything. You lied to me, she whispered. No, he replied. A pause. I protected you. From what? His voice dropped. From the truth. Tears fell freely now. Why would you do that? And that's when, for the first time, he hesitated. Not out of fear, but because the answer changed everything. Because you were never supposed to survive that night. Silence exploded. Her breath stopped. What? The man smiled slowly. And now, he said, you finally understand the game. But he shook his head. No. Both of them looked at him, and what they saw was no longer the man they thought they knew. You're still one step behind, he said. A pause. Because if I gave that order, his eyes darkened, then someone gave it to me. The room went completely still, because that was the truth no one expected.
Silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. If I gave that order, then someone gave it to me. Those words didn't just land. They detonated. Her mind couldn't process it. No, she whispered, shaking her head. You're the one in control. You're always in control. But he didn't respond, because for the first time, that wasn't true. The man standing across from them smiled slowly. There it is, he said. That moment. A pause. When power realizes it was never power at all. His fists clenched. Stop talking in circles, he snapped. Say the name. The man tilted his head slightly. You already know it. Silence. No one moved. No one spoke. Because deep down, they both did. But saying it made it real. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. No. The man's eyes shifted to her. Yes. She stepped back. That's not possible. They shut it down years ago. That's what they wanted you to believe. A pause. They don't shut down. Her chest tightened. They evolve. The word hung in the air like a curse. And then, finally, he said it. The consortium. Everything stopped. Even the air felt different. Because that name wasn't just dangerous. It was untouchable. A network. Invisible. Untraceable. Above governments. Above corporations. Above consequences. I destroyed them, he said coldly. The man smiled. No. A pause. You were used to clean up one of their mistakes. That hit deeper than anything before. Because now, the truth was clear. He wasn't the architect. He was the weapon. They needed someone powerful enough to act, the man continued, and disposable enough to take the fall.
Her eyes slowly turned toward him. "You knew?" she asked. He didn't answer, because the truth was complicated. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough. Enough to suspect. Enough to stay silent. And that silence had consequences. "You let it happen," she said, her voice breaking again. "You let all of it happen." "No," he said. A pause. "I thought I was stopping something worse." The man chuckled softly. "That's how they control people like you." Silence. Give them just enough truth so they never question the lie. The weight of that settled heavily, because now every decision, every move, every sacrifice felt manipulated. "So what is this?" he asked, his voice sharper now, focused. "A revenge story?" The man shook his head. "No." A pause. "This is a correction." The word echoed. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means," the man said calmly, "that loose ends need to be tied." Her breath caught. "You mean us?" He nodded slightly. "You were never supposed to survive." Then his eyes shifted to him. "And you were never supposed to remember." Silence. "But now," the man continued, "you're both liabilities." A pause. "And the consortium doesn't tolerate liabilities." The tension snapped. "So you brought us here to kill us?" he asked. The man smiled. "If that was the plan." A pause. "You'd already be dead." That changed everything. Because that meant this wasn't the end. It was something else. "Then what do you want?" she asked. The man stepped closer. "To finish what you started." Her eyes widened. "No." He looked at him. "You built an empire powerful enough to reach them." A pause. "Now you're going to use it." Realization hit instantly. "You want me to take them down?" The man nodded. "Not just take them down." A pause. "Expose them." Silence filled the room again, because that was suicide. "They'll destroy everything," she said. "They already are," the man replied. Another pause. "They just haven't decided when." That truth settled heavily, because now there were no good options. Only choices. Bad or worse. He exhaled slowly. "If I do this." His eyes locked onto the man's. "What do you get?" The answer came instantly. "Freedom." A pause. "For all of us." He studied him carefully. "Because nothing about this felt simple. Nothing about this felt clean. And yet, it made sense. Too much sense." "You're telling us not everything," he said. The man smiled slightly. "Of course not." That honesty was more dangerous than a lie. "Then give me one reason to trust you," he said. A pause. Then the man reached into his pocket, slowly, carefully, and pulled out a device. He placed it on the table. A single button. Red. "What is that?" she asked. His voice dropped. "Leverage." He looked at him. "If you walk away." A pause. "This gets released." His eyes narrowed. "What is it?" The man's smile faded, and for the first time, there was no control in his expression, only certainty. "Proof," he said. A pause. "That you didn't just give the order." His eyes darkened. "You enjoyed it." The world stopped, because that accusation was different, worse, and if it was true, there was no redemption left. "No," she whispered, her voice breaking completely now. "That's not true." But the silence that followed said everything.
48 hours. That was the deadline. Not given with threats, not enforced with guns, but somehow more dangerous than both. The city moved like nothing had changed. Cars passed, lights flickered, people laughed.
But for them, everything had already shifted. "Do you believe him?" she asked quietly. They stood in a dimly lit safe house, far from where it all began. No luxury, no power, just silence. "I believe patterns," he replied. She looked at him. "And what do the patterns say?" A pause. That he didn't lie. Her chest tightened. "Then we're really in this," she said. Yes. Silence settled again, because this wasn't like before. Before, they were reacting, running, surviving. Now, they had a choice. And choices have consequences. "We could still leave," she said. He looked at her. "Disappear, like you said." For a moment, that idea lingered. Peace, distance, a life without shadows. But then he shook his head. No. Her eyes narrowed. "You said—" "I know what I said." He stepped closer. "But if we run—" A pause. "They don't stop." Silence. "They reset," he continued. "They erase what needs to be erased." His voice hardened. "And they do it again." She swallowed. "With someone else." That was the truth. This wasn't just about them anymore. It never was. "So what are you saying?" she asked. He met her eyes. "We don't disappear." A beat. "We end it." The words hung heavy. "How?" she asked. A faint, controlled smile crossed his face. "The same way they used me." A pause. "We use them." Hours later, the plan was already in motion. Not loud, not reckless, precise. Because this time, he wasn't reacting to their game. He was rewriting it. "You're sure about this?" she asked. They stood in front of a screen. Data streams, encrypted channels, hidden networks. "This is where they operate?" she asked. He nodded. "They think it's invisible." "And it's not?" He looked at her. "Nothing is invisible if you know where to look." Step 1, access. He used everything he built, every contact, every hidden system, every shadow connection, not to grow power, but to expose it. Step 2, trigger. "They're watching," she said. "Good," he replied. He wanted them to see this, because control depends on silence, and today, silence was breaking. Step 3, release. Her hand hovered over the final command. "If we do this—" A pause. "There's no going back." He didn't hesitate. There was never a way back. She looked at him one last time, not as the man who broke her, not as the man who lied, but as the man who chose to face it. "Together?" she asked. He nodded. "Together." She pressed it, and the world changed. At first, nothing happened. Then, everything did. Screens across hidden networks lit up, encrypted files unlocked, transactions exposed, names revealed, power structures unraveled. The consortium was no longer invisible. In seconds, what took decades to build began to collapse. Phones rang, servers crashed, emergency protocols activated, but it was too late. "You just declared war," she whispered. He shook his head slowly. "No." A pause. "I ended it." Suddenly the lights flickered, the system glitched, then everything went dark. A voice echoed through the room. "You really thought it would be that easy?" They froze. Not fear, recognition, because that voice wasn't new. It was familiar, too familiar. The screen flickered back on, and what they saw changed everything. A live feed of the man, the one who helped them, standing calmly, watching. "You!" she whispered. He smiled. "I told you." A pause. "I was never at the top, but I never said," his eyes darkened, "I wasn't close to it." Betrayal, the final one. Not emotional, strategic, perfect. "You used us," he said. The man nodded. Yes. A pause. But so did they. Silence. Then what is this? She asked. The answer came clean. Balance. The screen glitched again, more systems collapsing, more exposure spreading, more control slipping. You can't stop it now, he said. The man smiled. I don't want to. That was the twist. This wasn't about protecting the consortium, the man continued. A pause. It was about replacing it. Silence hit like a shock wave. You destroyed them, she stepped back, so you could take their place? He didn't deny it. That's how power works, he said calmly. When one structure falls, a pause, another rises. He looked at them both. You should understand that better than anyone. For a moment, it felt like history repeating itself. New players, same game, endless cycle. But then, something changed. He stepped forward. No. The word cut through everything. The man frowned slightly. You think this ends with you? He continued. A pause. It ends now. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a second device. Her eyes widened. What is that? His voice was calm. Insurance. The man's expression shifted. For the first time, uncertainty. You planned this, he said slowly. Yes. A pause. I learned from the best. He pressed the button, and this time there was no delay. Everything went dark. Not just the room, the network, the systems, the control. Gone. Completely. No backups, no recovery, no structure left to rebuild. Silence. Real silence. When the lights came back, the screen was empty. The man was gone. The system gone. Everything over. She looked at him. What did you do? He exhaled slowly. I didn't destroy them. A pause. I erased the game. No consortium, no replacement, no hidden structure, nothing left to control, just the world as it was meant to be. She stared at him, and for the first time there was no fear, no anger, no doubt, just clarity. So what now? She asked softly. He looked outside, at a world that no longer had invisible hands guiding it. Now, a small, quiet pause. We live. And this time, no one was watching. If you made it to the end, you just experienced a full cinematic story. Drop a comment. Was he a hero or just another man who learned how to control the game better than everyone else?